A man in Pakistan has now been arrested and charged after allegedly spreading misinformation that fuelled riots in the UK.
Yes, so according to the police in Pakistan, Farhan Asif was linked to a website that gave out a false name for the suspected Southport attacker and suggested he was an asylum seeker who arrived in the UK on a small boat. Now, a lot of people, of course, have said that this disinformation was one of the key reasons why all the unrest kicked off.
And the point is, we've also seen people arrested in this country for sharing this information. Now, on your screens right now, you can see the charge sheet issued by the Pakistani authorities. So this is exclusive here to us at GB News. So that is the charge sheet that's been issued by the Pakistani authorities for that individual. Well, I would like to take us now to senior broadcaster Sabir Shah, who knows, I think, a bit more about all of this. Sabir, can you just, thank you for joining us. Can you tell us what's going on here? Because this was, the biggest story in Britain here for the best part of a week. And it looks as though now a man in Pakistan has been arrested and charged over potentially helping to start this whole thing. What's gone on?
Well, the man who's called Farhan Asif is 32 years old. He was arrested yesterday from a posh residential locality of Defence Housing Authority in Lahore. He was presented before the court today, and the court has handed him over to the police on one-day physical remand. Now, a physical remand would mean that police will do all under its control to extract the truth from him and ask him as to what were the reasons for spreading disinformation which incited rioting in Britain. And they would also like to know who else was with him. They would like to know the names, and they will submit a complete report of the investigation to the court tomorrow. Remember, as I said, the investigation authority is the Federal Investigation Authority, which is a key probing agency in Pakistan. There is a lot of chaos within the agency. They want to investigate the matter fully because there are all eyes on it from within Pakistan and from all the Western media outlets, particularly in Britain. Yes.
And is there any indication here that the UK authorities have been working with the Pakistani authorities on this case? And also, what do we know about this website that this man was allegedly working for? Channel 3 Now, I believe it's called, where this information was posted.
Ma'am, the first part of a question, you see, he's been investigated, and the way the things are moving, it could not have been possible had British authorities not been involved. I think he has been arrested on their tip-off from Lahore. And number two, as far as the second part of question, can you please repeat it?
What do we know about the website that he was allegedly running, this Channel 3 Now?
To be honest with you, I've spent 33 years in journalism in Pakistan with Pakistan's largest media group, the Jang Group NGO. I'm a prolific writer. I had never heard of this website before. It seems that the name, etc., had been copied from a Western website just to deceive the readers, number one. And number two, as the man himself said, that he had copied the information from a social media account, which seemingly is true to me because I have never heard the name of this journalist before. I myself am very well known here in Pakistan, and I know everybody who is doing some significant journalism anywhere on websites or in mainstream media. I've not heard the name of this man before, and
all right. The connection's going a little bit there, Sabir. So we'll have to just call it a day there. But can I say a massive thank you for shedding some light on this case for us, and we'll probably go back to you as there are any developments. To Sabir Shah, though, senior broadcaster in Pakistan. That story, just to recap, a man has been charged with cyber terrorism offences over spreading misinformation about those riots. Now, this is a breaking story, a developing story that we brought you just towards the end of the last hour. Police have launched a murder investigation after a delivery driver was killed trying to stop the alleged theft of his own van in Leeds yesterday evening.
Yes, the victim is believed to be a man in his 40s and has not yet been named by police.
Well, let's speak now to GB News' Home and Security Editor, Mark White. Mark, this appears to be yet another example of lawless Britain. What's gone on?
Yeah, an absolutely appalling incident. There's an Amazon driver, he was delivering a parcel to an address in Wortley in Leeds. Last night, as you say, early on, not even 7 o'clock in the evening, it would have been light in a residential area. He returned to his van to find that someone was trying to steal his van, and it seems that he was determined clearly not to let that thief get away with his van. He tried to get into the van. He was hanging out of the passenger door, apparently. You can see that van there, that silver Ford cargo van that was recovered 6 miles away from the murder scene. He held on to the van hanging out the passenger door. It drove for half a mile at speed through this residential area in Wortley before colliding with a couple of parked vehicles in Heights Drive in Wortley. At that point, the driver was very severely injured, tossed from the van, lying on the road. Members of the public rushed to try to help the van driver. Paramedics arrived, but there was nothing they could do for him. He was so badly injured.
This sounds like a very extreme example of a trend that we've been reporting on quite a lot. We've spoken before, of course, about shoplifting. We've spoken before about how delivery drivers are being targeted in terms of what cargo they've got on board, what deliveries, you know, Ocado vans, people nicking all the food out the back, or tool theft as well that's impacting people who drive around in their white vans. They leave them parked and everything gets nicked out the back. This is getting worse.
Yeah, it's the brazen nature involved in now these thefts, be it from a shop, be it from the back of a van, where people just think they can come with impunity to steal what they want and they'll never be challenged and they can walk away from it. And a few brave people do decide to challenge them. Mm-hmm. And on occasions that can end as it has in tragedy. I should say we've had a statement from West Yorkshire Police. This is from Senior Investigating Officer Detective Chief Inspector James Entwistle, who said this appears to be a truly shocking incident where the victim has been killed while going about his business as a parcel delivery driver. We're carrying out extensive inquiries to establish the full circumstances and to identify the person whose incredibly dangerous actions have been responsible for causing his death. So as we speak, we have forensic teams poring over that cargo van, trying to get every fibre, every piece of DNA to try to lead them to a suspect, because what we know about suspects, criminals, they're usually recidivists. They'll have offended before, they'll have come into the criminal justice system, their DNA, fingerprints will be on record. So the chances are that within hours, within days, the police will be able to catch up with this person.
And presumably there'll be plenty of eyewitnesses if this was a residential area and in the light of day. Thank you very much, Mark White, our Home and Security Editor.
Yeah, thank you. Well, look, what we want to try and do is find a little bit more about what this ongoing police investigation is probably going to look like. An absolutely horrific case, just an individual in his 40s trying to go about his daily business, do his job, and then before you know it, he's hanging out the side of his own van while someone drags him through a residential area. We get the thoughts now of former Detective Superintendent at the Metropolitan Police, Shabnam Chowdhury. Shabnam, thank you very much for joining us. In terms of this investigation now, you will have presumably Ring doorbell footage. You'll have all sorts, CCTV. What kind of thing will be going on right now to try and get hold of this individual?
Well, I think the key priority here is the forensication of the van in which this perpetrator who killed this man in his 40s will have been. So, as your colleague has said, that they will be poring over that. They will be looking to fast-track any immediate forensic opportunities that may identify him if his DNA is on the system. And then working from there, he drove 6 miles away, so they'll have some form of a timeline which they're trying to develop in terms of the streets in which that vehicle drove, where it drove to, where it ended up, and what Ring doorbell, CCTV, dash cam, anything which would locate where he actually got out of the van and where he travelled to from there on. So there will be extensive inquiries. There will be a number of officers working on that. They'll also be doing house-to-house inquiries, looking for all of that CCTV evidence. But the key here will actually be the van in terms of any forensic DNA that may link him and his identification to this horrific, horrible, shocking crime.
It really is. This type of thing, OK, this is a very extreme example, but this type of thing has almost become an occupational hazard for delivery drivers, people who work with small white vans or indeed large white vans, in terms of tools being very expensive tools, very valuable tools being stolen out the back of vans. You've got people having all of their groceries nicked out the back of a van and deliveries, etc., etc. I mean, how can the police tackle this type of problem? People being so brazen that they'll either nick things out the back of a van or actually try and steal the whole van and by doing so kill someone.
Well, the problem here is that theft from motor vehicle theft, shoplifting, as we've just heard your colleague discussing, none of these are key priorities within policing. And since there have been less police officers, they've removed motor vehicle squads, drug squads, burglary squads. So all these teams that work in collaboration together with partners to try and tackle this type of crime is no longer something that is a priority for policing. So it's made it much, much more difficult. I alone was yesterday in Co-op in London somewhere, and I saw a guy going through the checkout, the self-service checkout, and literally helping himself to goods. I looked at the cashier there. She saw what was going on, but she just gave me the, I can't do anything about it. Why would I put myself at risk if the staff are not doing this?
Well, that's exactly the point, Shabnam. So if you just stay on the line for us, Shabnam, please, because we're looking now at live pictures of this scene. So this is, I believe, the road where this incident took place. It is in Leeds, and if you are just joining us, I'll just give you a quick recap of what is a horrific situation that took place at about 6:45 p.m. last night as a delivery driver parked his silver grey transit van up to go and deliver some goods to somebody. When he came back, there was an individual stealing his van. He tried to get back into the van via the passenger window, it's believed. He then, unfortunately, was dragged for about half a mile, then sadly fell out of that van and died. And then the individual who was driving it is believed to have continued for around another 5.5 miles before the van came to a halt. That person is still on the run. The police doing everything they can to try to track that person down. Shabnam, can I ask, is it a depressing state of affairs now, though, that if you do see someone trying to steal your car with your goods inside it or whatever, the best thing to do, unfortunately, now is just let them do it because, this could happen?
It's really sad to say that, but in some instances, yeah. I mean, for me, I know what I would do because the natural instinct of my policing career would jump out at me. But, the advice to many people is either call the police, which they're not going to come because it's not a 999, it's not an emergency as such in certain circumstances, or just allow the perpetrator to walk off with your goods. And that is the problem. These thieves, these criminals are absolutely brazen because they know that they can get away with it. They walk in and they actually fill up bag loads of shopping for whatever it is that they want. And these aren't people that are poverty-stricken. There are some where, there are issues around that, but I don't generally see that. I see people just walking in, helping themselves to whatever it is that they want to do, as probably do you. Would you then intervene in something like that? And the advice would be your life is far more valuable. This is such a sad, sad situation. This guy is the same guy that probably drops goods off at your doors and many hundreds or thousands of Amazon drivers. Really sad.
Yeah, this should not be an occupational hazard, this type of thing. And I hope we can get to a place in this country where shoplifting is taken seriously, where it can be a police priority. The same with theft. Van theft, all of these things. People become more and more brazen, as you say, Shabnam, if these things aren't, cut off at the root. Thank you very much for your time. Really appreciate it. Shabnam Chowdhury, a former superintendent at the Metropolitan Police. Look,